Give it a minute and I'll call it to order. I need to bring my gavel home.
I can drop a hammer off for you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Let's pick a soft mallet.
Aw, I was going to say, I got a 20-ounce framing hammer. You'll get some attention with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will go ahead and call to order the EDA meeting, May 17th, 2021. First item, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Or are there any questions?
I move that we adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
All right. Any changes, questions, etc.? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. And Stephanie or Jack, who's taking roll for us tonight?
I'll do this one.
Okay.
EDA member Butler.
Aye.
EDA member Mundell.
Aye.
EDA member Landcrane. EDA member Lux.
Aye.
EDA member Voss.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, approving the April 19th, 2021 minutes. Any changes, corrections, or additions? And if not, I will take a motion to approve them.
So moved.
A second.
Got a first and a second. We'll take a vote. All in favor, Jack or Stephanie, if you'll.
EDA member Butler.
Aye.
EDA member Mundell.
Aye.
EDA member Landcrane. EDA member Lux.
Aye.
EDA member Voss.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Catherine, FYI, you're on mute. Just, no problem.
Thank you.
You bet. Item number 4, TIF resolution 2021.
Item 4.0, aggressive hydraulics TIF resolution 2021-01. Aggressive Hydraulics, located at 18800 Ulysses Street, is in the process of expanding their manufacturing facility by additional 36,000 square feet. This addition will provide a total of 96,000 square feet at this location. This expansion will be a $2.8 million investment and create 20 additional jobs, bringing their employment total to 85. Aggressive Hydraulics has applied for TIF for this project. Qualified TIF eligible costs are site preparation, landscaping, irrigation, curb and gutter, paving, and sack and whack fees. Construction is expected to start by the end of June 2021. Their TIF application has been submitted and deemed complete by Ellers, our financial consultants. Ellers' preliminary analysis of this project indicates qualifying cost of $339,585, excluding interest, and an increment generation of $190,000 over an 8-year term. Attachment 2 in your packet is the schedule of actions needed and the procedure for EDA and City Council approval of TIF 1.5 for the aggressive hydraulics expansion. Attachment 3 in your packet is a financial project analysis and shows the market value but for evaluation of the request for TIF funds. TIF District 1-1 was created for the original aggressive hydraulics project in 2013 and decertified as complete in 2020. This was a 9-year note for $225,000 and was paid off in 7 years. With us tonight is Stacy Quivling with Ellers, our financial consultant, who will add any additional information that needs to be presented to you and will be available for questions on this before staff's recommendation of approval of 2021-01 as presented in your packet as attachment 1 and submission of the approved resolution to council for their consideration at the June 14th, 2021 meeting. Stacy, do you have any comments?
Thank you, President. Commissioners, Jack, nope, you covered it all. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the EDA? Nice to see you, Stacy.
Good to see you too, Julie.
So I have a question. At the end of the 8 years, Stacy, what, I don't know that you can project this answer for me or not, but what would the additional value be of the additional 36,000 square feet in, say, 8 years in terms of taxable value to the city? I know there's a chart there, but break it out for me if you could.
Yep. So let me just go in and look at the value here. So President Commissioners, it looks like the expansion, the taxable market value is going to be about $2.3 million. That's in today's dollars, but industrial values or spaces like this have held pretty constant over time. So I don't expect to see much fluctuation with regards to that.
So is that on top of the 4.4?
That's correct. So the
Okay.
total valuation is going to be approximately 6.8 million.
Okay, thank you, Stacy.
Stacy, can you give us a couple minute overview of what this TIF is, just in layman's terms?
Yep. Madam President, Commissioners, essentially you are creating an economic development district. It has a term of a total of 9 years of tax increment. These are created for what we call greenfield sites, so meaning that there aren't any existing buildings or structures or blight or other issues that have to be dealt with on the site. Hence, that's why we have a shorter term. When you're creating a tax increment district, we freeze the base value that's on there so that the taxes that are being paid to the various jurisdictions, which is yourself, the county, and the school district, continue to do that through the life of the tax increment district. And what you capture is the increase in taxes from that base value. So as we stated, it's about 4.4 million is the value of that existing facility out there. And now it's going to increase by $2.4 million. So you're capturing that valuation difference there and the taxes there. What I can tell you is that traditionally for commercial or industrial businesses like this, because not all their taxes, come directly to the city, some go into the fiscal disparities pool. Traditionally, they get about 30 to 35 cents on the dollar for every tax dollar that they pay.
Okay, and can you give us a short overview about this specific TIF for as applies to aggressive hydraulics?
Yep. So aggressive hydraulics, again, their existing valuation that they have on that property is 4.4 million. It'll be approximately 2.3 million in added value. So we'll have a total valuation of approximately 6.8 million. What we were seeing is that after we calculate the tax increment, you pay a fee to the Office of the State Auditor, and then you take 10% that the city gets to retain for administrative costs or for other economic development endeavors. Essentially, on an annual basis, they'll receive about $27,000 a year in tax increment over the next 8 years. So that's where we get to the $190,000.
And with Eller's review of this, aggressive hydraulics is a good candidate and everything looks clear enough.
Yep, Madam President, Commissioner, we review the information that they provide us as far as qualifying costs, which they have costs that are in excess of 190,000. We also see their underwriting for their small business loan that they receive and what their gap is with relation to that, which is approximately the $190,000. Hence, that is their request. And then we also put it through, a test of looking at if this was, say, an investor building this addition or this facility, what would they charge in rent back to a typical business, and would they receive a decent return or a market return if they didn't have the tax increment? And so all those factors point to the fact that the $190,000 is justified for them.
Well, I would like to just get this resolution nominated, so I'm going to go ahead and recommend that the EDA approve resolution 2021-01, recommending a modification of the development program for Municipal Development District 1 establishing number 1-5 aggressive hydraulics 2, therein adopting a tax increment financing plan therefore.
So that's your motion,
Yeah.
Mr. Butler? Okay, do I hear a second or any comments or questions?
I'll second.
Okay. So, all in favor, Jack, if you'll
Well,
do the roll call? Questions? Sorry.
Can we have a little discussion? Stephanie, based on the history of the fact that they retired their previous TIF in 7 years, even though it was a 9-year TIF, is that normal, or is that above expectations or normal expectations? I'm just kind of curious because I noticed that they retired early their last TIF.
Yep, President, Commissioners, it's a great question. It just depends. So we see some of the districts pay off a little early, and some that don't, end up paying off at the end of the term of their district. So it's just not out of line. I think when this first started, where the county was with valuations with regards to the development that they're doing, they're a little bit below market, and it started to catch up here. And so hence with the higher valuations, we were seeing a quicker payoff.
Okay. I'm sorry I said Stephanie, I meant Stacy. Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Thanks for that. That makes sense. Okay, so I do have a motion and a second. So if we would, any other comments or questions before we take a vote? Okay, if not, Jack, if you'll do the honors.
EDA member Butler,
Aye.
EDA member Mundell,
Aye.
EDA member Landcrane,
Aye.
EDA member Lux,
Aye.
EDA member Voss.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacy. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Stacy.
Good to see you guys. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, item 5.0, AC Red report.
Thank you, Julie. We're fortunate enough tonight to have Samantha Markham with us. I'm going to review just the basic staff report and then let Samantha join in to give us an overview of some of the things that AC Red has done and will be participating with the city on, and what their contributions can be in our quest for internet broadband extension and expansion improvement. Just as a little bit of background, Samantha was hired as the AC Red Economic Development Director on March 23rd, 2021. Samantha replaces Jaquel Hyder in this position. At tonight's meeting, Samantha will present an overview of the service provided by AC Red and review their role in our efforts to improve broadband internet services in East Bethel at tonight's meeting. Samantha comes to us from the city of Faribault, where she was the Economic Development Coordinator. At Faribault, she was the primary point of contact for economic development, including site selector meetings, business development, and business retention and expansion visits. She worked administering loan and grant programs, including business relief grants through the Federal CARES Act funding. She has also created all the marketing materials, maintained the city website, and maintained available land inventory to her previous position. In addition to her background in economic development, Samantha gained experience in the area of transportation as a planner for SRF, with over 20 transportation plan updates through the metropolitan region. Samantha and I met Friday afternoon, and I reviewed many of the things that we're interested in, what our goals and priorities are as a city, to give her a little bit of background for tonight's meeting. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Samantha, and thank you for attending, Samantha.
Great. Thank you, Jack, and good evening, members of the EDA. Julie, nice to see you again.
You as well.
Thank you. As Jack mentioned, I am the new Economic Development Director for Anoka County. I've been in this role about 6 weeks now. I had the opportunity to go through a rigorous interview panel that Julie was able to participate in, and happy to announce that I was offered the position. So I have thoroughly enjoyed the last 6 weeks at the county and really starting to get my feet wet on some of the initiatives and getting out and meeting with the cities. As Jack mentioned, I had the opportunity to meet with city staff on Friday, where we had some discussion about what the priorities and what East Bethel looks like as a community. I was really excited with the opportunity to sit down with the EDA members and just hear directly from you as members of the EDA, kind of what those, just to elaborate on some of those initiatives a little bit more. Jack did a great job in covering my background, but I've spent the last 3 years in economic development, specifically at a local municipality. So I do come from a local municipal background, so have a good understanding of, you know, what the day-to-day work in economic development looks like. And with my role now at the county level, what I look forward to most is just being able to be that facilitator, that conduit between the county and the 21 municipalities that make up Anoka County. It looks different for every community in Anoka County, understanding that a lot of the southern portion of the county is very urban, with staff dedicated to economic development. As you head north and East Bethel included, some of those resources become limited. And so I look to myself as an extension of city staff and how I can continue to help facilitate some of those conversations where needed. Looking specifically at the Anoka County Regional Economic Development Partnership, or AC-RED, we intend to keep this year as much as possible business as usual under the new leadership. So we have a variety of events scheduled with the Minnesota Real Estate Journal. That's a relationship that Jaquel was able to make. And I actually was a former member of the Minnesota Real Estate Journal in my last position as well. So I'm very well connected in that community and look forward to reciprocating those events here in Anoka County. Those are a really great opportunity to market all of the communities and the opportunities available to the commercial real estate sector. They offer continuing education requirements for those folks, and it ends up being a really great pull with a lot of folks in those events. So we have an upcoming one in June, which will be a commercial real estate forecast summit. September will be the North Metro Summit, and November for an industrial summit. In July, we have heard that the 3M Open will be coming back. So Anoka County will play a role in a sponsorship for that event. That's the third week in July. And so we're beginning to build an invite list of what that would look like. And I did send a note to city staff requesting if there were any businesses or developers or folks that are making an investment in each community so that we can start to build a robust network. So if there are folks that you know may be of benefit to include on our invite list, we do have what we estimate to be about 50 tickets a day for 4 days. And we find that that event ends up being a little bit more of a relaxed setting to have some of those discussions about the investments made in Anoka County. And then following that, moving into the fall is when we are really heavy on the AC-RED sponsored events. We intend to have our Upriver Real Estate event, our banking and credit union event, as well as our business summit. All of those were held previously last year virtually, but we're hoping that those will all come back in person this year. We also maintain our 3 subcommittees of marketing, readiness, and regionalism and alignment. So again, keeping a lot of that same foundation that Jaquel was able to set with the AC-RED partnership. I know Jaquel personally, and she's left nothing but big shoes to fill here, but looking forward to the opportunity and just kind of taking the foundation that's been laid and really taking it to the next level. Jack and I did have some pretty lengthy discussion about broadband development and understanding that that is a priority of East Bethel. I did have the opportunity to review the last county board meeting where they did implement allocation of some American Rescue Plan dollars towards broadband development. So they've allocated up to $150,000 in matching criteria or matching dollars to each community for eligible broadband development. We're still waiting, just like local municipalities are, to hear what the official guidance from the Treasury's office is on those ARP dollars. But the county has already stated that they would allocate some of those funds for local matching dollars for broadband development. That's in addition to what we know is coming down from the state pipeline as well as the federal. So we'll continue to track that, but there are some opportunities to leverage county dollars in addition to any municipal dollars that would be going into that broadband development. That's a lot of information, I understand that, but I wanted to just take the opportunity to provide a brief and somewhat thorough overview of the AC-RED partnership, where we're headed in 2021, and just take this opportunity for a discussion answer any questions, or how I can continue to help facilitate the needs of East Bethel within Anoka County.
Samantha?
Thank
I was reading about the allocation of the federal dollars, and it appeared that in what I read, that those federal dollars could be allocated towards internet infrastructure and broadband. I don't know if you've read that or if that's what your take is at this point, but when it filters into the county or the state and the county, are they required to leave that in, or can they pull that out, or how does that all work?
Yep, so that is the discussion that the county board had at their last meeting on Tuesday, last Tuesday, and they talked about how they would begin to allocate some of those dollars. We understand, just like East Bethel, we're slated to receive half of our federal dollars this year, with the second half coming next year, and having a little bit more of the luxury of time compared to the CARES Act funding. That was kind of a turn and burn, but we have some time to really be thoughtful in how we're allocating these funds. So the county board made recommendation that we would allocate up to that $150,000 per community in matching funds specifically for broadband development. So that would be, those funds are being allocated. It ends up being, times the 21 communities, just over $3 million of our ARP dollars allocated to that broadband development. During the discussion, there was some thoughts from commissioners that there may be some flexibility in what that dollar allocation looks like, but they wanted to ensure that they at least passed a motion basically granting the opportunity for cities to utilize those dollars for broadband development. So that was the first step that the county took in allocating some of those federal funds towards broadband. But we do, with, I would say, the caveat that we want, you know, they're matching dollars. So the city will have a financial aspect in the project when looking to utilize county dollars. As well as looking at what those state and federal dollars may be to broadband development as well. I mean, we want to see if there's opportunities to tap multiple financial resources. We're going to work with the cities to make sure we're getting all possible funding for a particular project.
Let me ask follow up. So the 150,000 per municipality, is that above and beyond the number that the dollar number that East Bethel may receive out of ARP funds?
Right, and Jack can probably speak to the ARP dollars that East Bethel is slated to receive. But the way that the allocation works federally is both counties and municipalities are eligible to receive ARP dollars. So that is specifically coming out of the dollars going to Anoka County. East Bethel will receive funds in addition to those that Anoka County are receiving. And Jack, I don't know if you have those dollars.
Thank you, Samantha.
The city of East Bethel is currently scheduled to receive $1.37 million in the ARP funding. The top priority we have now is the utilities for the service road project that will be presented to city council for their approval for use on that project at next Monday's meeting. It'll be up to council to make that decision. We felt that this was a sound recommendation at this time, number one, because of the need for the utilities. But number two is we're not sure exactly what we're going to do now. We want to get this plan in place. And in my discussions with Samantha, and one of the things that I think we both agree on is there's going to be more and more federal dollars available to address these issues. And we're more likely to be able to receive those if we have a plan in place to lay out what we're intending to do with these funds and monies and what we need, and it'll, I think, it'll go a long way in improving our access to these funds in the future.
And just as a follow-up to that point, Jack is correct. We're seeing that in order to be eligible for additional broadband funding, it's helpful when a community has a plan in place or a specific project that they're looking to implement. Similar to the $150,000 per community that Anoka County would be allocating. As I mentioned, we'd be looking for further guidance from the Treasury Office on the ARP dollars and how those funds could be available for broadband. We want to make sure we're meeting that federal criteria so that the county would not have to repay any of those funds, similarly to the city. So we would have further guidance on what that would look like. But historically, when looking at broadband funding, we want to see a community with a plan in place and a specific project that they're looking to attain that typically fares better in a competitive grant process or something similar.
Samantha, this is Mayor Steve Voss. Welcome to our community. So,
thank you.
You had mentioned a little while ago about the county would be looking for matching, like a matching fund. What type of match is the board talking about at this point?
So to date, we've talked about a fiscal match to that 150,000. So we would look for the city to at least be contributing $150,000 to be eligible for the full 150 that the county has allocated specific to broadband funding. So say East Bethel was coming in with a public-private partnership on the utility side to light up neighborhood to receive broadband development. If the municipality is applying for those funds on broadband development, we would look for the municipality to have allocated $150,000 in city dollars, and then the county would come in with that match. If it were anything less than that, the county would be eligible to match up to that amount.
So you stated city dollars for the 150. Does that include monies we use from the ARP?
And this is again where we would just have to verify with the Treasury once we get to the further guidance from it. But we would likely require like a sub application to our ARP dollars. There would be a sub kind of agreement that would be in place between the county and the city, and all of those funding sources would get allocated through that agreement. So we're definitely taking it in a case-by-case matter, and it's something that we would work with the city to ensure it's something that they would be eligible for. We don't want to build in criteria that would exclude you. We just want to make sure on both our parts, the county and the amount that we're receiving, and unfortunately the total amount of ARP funding that the county is getting is evading me at the moment, but we want to ensure that we will be subject to a single audit with the dollars we are to receive. So we want to just make sure we're following the guidance that the federal Treasury has yet to release, even with the dollars coming into our account here in the next few days. So but again, we want to utilize this tool as freely and loosely as possible to the extent that it meets the guidelines. So we would work with any city to ensure that the intent of the overall program is met.
Okay, good. And I'm sure Jack's mentioned, and it's on our agenda tonight, we're looking for an RFP for the broadband service in our area. So we're on the right track, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think that is a great move. I will be sticking around for the discussion afterwards just to make sure we're all kind of on the same page. But definitely those cities that are taking an active role in seeking a broadband plan and how they can expand their services are definitely those that tend to have a leg up in the game. Like I said, those competitive funding processes, whether it be at the state or federal level, typically go to cities that have a plan in place. So.
Just out of curiosity, and I know you're just there, know of how many other communities in the county are looking to prepare a plan like we're talking about?
As far as a broadcast plan, I'm not aware. However, we've been actively working with the city of Columbus on a broadband development plan. They are looking at a current project, which is actually where that request for the $150,000 came from. And we at the county didn't want to take that as a single request. We wanted to open that up as an opportunity for all communities to have access to. So that's kind of where that initial request at least came to the county board, but where the opportunity to expand that to all eligible communities came to play.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Samantha, you mentioned some of the more southern cities with more urban infill that might be more adequately serviced if they don't apply for their allocation of the 150,000. Does that go back in the pool, and would we be eligible for more potentially?
Right. So that is specifically the discussion that the county board had at their meeting. The basic discussion that came out of that, in at least my review of that, was that there is intended to be flexibility with these dollars.
Okay.
It was also discussed at the intergovernmental committee that would be the intention of that. Basically, with allocating just over $3 million to broadband funding, if we're not getting a broadcast response from each eligible community, we could certainly take a look at that, but it would likely potentially require further county board action. But there was at least discussion around that there would be a willingness to build in that flexibility.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions on broadband or any of the other topics brought up?
You know, the only thing I'm thinking about the broadband, and I guess the question I have is, I've got neighbors here that are actually hooked up, and because their community is just a little bit tighter, but they're a little bit more distant from us. And I know a lot of neighbors really close by here who have a little more acreage, and then they've sought out individually and were told really high costs, and so didn't proceed. And I guess I'm kind of surprised. I have neighbors I can view, you know, just down the street that are connected to Comcast and have a good, or not to Comcast, but they connected up with a better internet service and have this service. And then the rest of us out here are kind of in no man's land. And I just feel like there's so much incentive. Everyone is really talking about this, you know, but then people kind of are also talking about this satellite and all this. I don't know what reality there is to those satellite services. I don't know anyone who has it. To be able to discuss it with them and talk to them. So, you know, I don't know, but I think the incentive right now I mean, it would be great if we could somehow utilize these dollars to at least start the process to get more of the city engaged and connected. Because I have neighbors I can view who are connected, and those of us who can view them are like, why not us?
And I think that's one of the purposes of this plan that we're going to request a proposal for, is to identify how to serve those last mile customers, and identify what's the most feasible means of providing service also to those areas of much lower density. And that'll be part of the things we've outlined is what we're looking for. You know, we've talked about there may be 3 or 4 different levels of different modes of service that we have to use, like the backbone system that's kind of in place along Highway 65, and maybe an outer ring for the some of the more denser areas of population. And then the tricky part and the thing that we really want to find out is how to serve those areas where densities are low, that currently it's not maybe economically feasible to include those in the private sector expansion, but with some programs that we can offer, grant funds, public-private partnerships, we may be able to address those needs of those customers.
And just as a follow-up to the point about satellite service, we did just have a presentation at the Economic Development County level, where all 87 counties had the opportunity to participate. But there was a presentation from Starlink, which seems to be kind of the buzzword right now for those low orbiting satellite frequency internet providers. And at least talking with them, with their office out in DC, it was mentioned that it's just going to take some time for them to get enough satellites orbiting to serve a broader area. They're launching, you know, many all the time, but it will take time to build out that network. And then if you look at a provider like HughesNet, they utilize satellite services that orbit at a higher altitude in the atmosphere. And folks, just anecdotally, comments that I've heard that that reduces the speed just because of the distance that it needs to travel. So there is some opportunity with, I think, those low orbiting right now that's being offered through that Starlink provider, but in at least talking with them, that's going to take some time to build out those low orbiting frequencies. So the limited language that we have heard from the Federal Treasury Office in allocation of those ARP funds is that there's likely going to need to be a minimum of 100 megabyte upload and download speed to be eligible for those funding. So we're definitely, I mean, those dollars are trying to be allocated to those providers or to those partnerships or to those constituents that are going to get reliable, higher speed internet service at a minimum of that 100 megabytes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more broadband questions? If not, I have one question, Samantha. Have you heard, is the MinCar Expo going to be on this year?
Yeah, so I did just get plugged in with the folks down there. It is scheduled for October. I have the specific date, October 27th. And they have included my updated contact information for the AC Red. So we will look to sponsor a booth through the AC Red partnership again in late October. So that's intended to come back as well. So that's exciting.
That's good news. That's always a great event. All right. Well, looking forward to working with you and hearing more, and we appreciate your help with the broadband side of things. That's great.
Yeah, I'm always happy to be a resource, and if it ever makes sense, you know, to bounce things at the county level, or you know, if there's even any department at the county that we can help navigate, you know, the AC Red partnership was developed specifically to create that link between county and city services. So we're happy to be a resource in any way that we can. And thanks for the opportunity to participate this evening. As I mentioned, I'll be sticking around for the next broadband discussion, and happy to participate if there's any questions on the county side.
Great. Yeah, perhaps having gone through a similar process as this, any ideas or thoughts on the RFP that we're putting together may be helpful as well.
I'm always a strong believer in the RFP process. We've gone through them, at least in my experience at a municipal level, on the multi-family housing front and city-owned property development and things like that. So it just gives cities a really good opportunity to hear from others, well-qualified folks, what's out there and what those could look like, and then usually gives you a good pool to choose from. So
agreed.
Direction.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions or comments, we can move on to item 6.0, the Internet Service Plan RFP.
Thank you, Julie. And as Samantha stated, she has graciously agreed to stay with us the rest of the meeting to offer any comments on our discussion of this RFP. We have discussed this request for proposals to develop a broadband internet extension improvement service plan for the past two meetings. We reviewed a base template RFP, and tonight I have a preliminary red line and clean copy draft in your packet that we think addresses most of the things that we're looking for. Attachment 1 is the red line copy. Attachment 2 is the clean copy. I won't go over some of the other portions of the material in the staff report as we've discussed it twice, but presented to you are the red line, which shows changes and deletions, in the clean copy. And at this time, staff is requesting final EDA comments on the proposed RFP. Upon discussion and review, staff recommends the EDA approve the RFP for submission to City Council, subject to any modifications that may be adopted by the authority. So with that, I'll take any questions on what is in the packet, and I'm glad Samantha's staying around. She could probably answer anything that I can't handle. So if you have any questions, now's the time to bring them up.
So I have a question. Be on page 42 of our packet. On item B, create new networks. And it talks about city involvement. And by the way, I did read through all the red lines, and some very good changes were made. I want to just point that out. My question would be, do we want to include a point of if the city will be involved with any of these things, if it would be beneficial to identify any potential risks or liabilities with any certain avenue that there's always risks and liabilities, but if there's any potentially obvious ones that pros and cons column. So
Brian, I did address that briefly. It's under the section called Request for Proposals. It's toward the back of the RFP. It's item number H. My page numbers are different from yours, but item H says is a requirement of what we're looking for is identification of any areas of liability outside the normal exposure for the city in any of the delivery options identified by the study.
okay, very good.
Okay.
I was involved with the a study with the university a number of years ago. And it was part of a broadband committee meeting. And we were talking about fiber to the node versus fiber to the premises. I'm looking specifically on page 45 of 59. The heading is request for proposal, and it's the second bullet point in the, we're talking about fiber to the premises, and I think that could get very expensive. I have fiber to the node out here where I'm at, and I just did a speed test. I've got 45 gig up and 20 down, so I'm getting really quality speed where I'm at based on fiber to the node. And I would think that running fiber to the premises has got to be way more costly than fiber to the node, and then running copper from the node to the home, depending upon the distance. And I was wondering if Samantha might be able to address that, what the cost differences may be if she's familiar with them, or just a general overview of fiber to the premises versus to the node.
Thanks for that, Dan. I have not had the opportunity to work directly on some of these projects as far as the broadband development, but I have had opportunities to, participate in webinars and different things through the Office of Broadband Development at the State Department. And I do also want to mention, and I sent this information to city staff, but the Office of Broadband Development at the state of Minnesota is offering a webinar on Thursday, May 20th of this week. And that's specifically to identify their data tools that they have. They have a variety of different mapping tools with public data information, which we know a lot of these fiber provider or internet providers or broadband providers keep a lot of this information very proprietary. But there is some public data components to this, and the Office of Broadband Development is doing a training exercise with that this Thursday. So I look forward to participating in that, but I've also had the opportunity to participate in a few other discussions. And to your point, Dan, it is considerably more expensive laying fiber to a premise than it is to, say, a unified node for a neighborhood or something, or a service territory to that degree. We also had a conversation internally at the county level that broadband development as a whole is pretty spendy when it comes to the overall infrastructure. So it typically takes a pretty unified partnership between a public-private partnership and additional funding mechanisms to get different infrastructure built on this front as well. So that's again where we had some discussions around how can we layer the different funding opportunities that are available just to maximize that dollar coverage for these expensive projects. And so that's where the county hopes to participate in some of the funding that we've already begun to allocate. The state has had some rumblings at the legislature as well as their federal allocation. and then obviously the federal programs that are around broadband development too. So to your point, these do become expensive projects, and I wouldn't get too tied up in the language in the RFP. I think folks are going to submit qualifiable responses, and it's going to be up to the reviewers of those applications to find the best fit. And, when holistically looking at these service plans, that may be something that gets worked out with whatever contractor is chosen.
Thank you. You're muted.
Thank you. I agree with Brian. I think the changes made on the red line were very well done, and there could be tweaks here and there, but as you say, Samantha, I mean, any qualified person is going to come in and help us lay the path. So I tend to agree with the language as stated, unless anyone else has any other thoughts. And is this something I'm just looking at are we voting on this, or are we?
If it's to your approval, I would request that EDA make a motion to approve this draft and submit it to the city council for their consideration of approval. Unless Steve or Brian think we need another work meeting, we could submit this to council as early as next Monday for their at least initial review and comment. I think the quicker we get this out here, the better we're going to be. I don't think we need to. The longer we wait, the longer we're putting off solving the problem.
Yeah, I guess I'd recommend sending it right to council. If council really sees the need to have it on another work meeting, we can determine it then, but at least it would be in a position to approve if so desired.
Yeah, I think this needs to go to council soon. Need to get this moving, so.
Okay, well, with that, I'll take a motion to approve the draft of the internet service plan RFP to send to council.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, Jack, if you'll take roll.
EDA member Butler,
Aye.
EDA member Mundell,
Aye.
EDA member Landcrane,
Aye.
EDA member Voss,
Aye.
EDA member Lux.
Aye.
Motion passes. We will submit this to the city council for their initial consideration on Monday, May 24th, 2021. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for your work on that. That looks great.
Thanks again, Samantha.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Happy to participate. Have a good evening, everyone.
Yes,
Thank
you
you.
as well.
Nice to meet
Good
you.
night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Item 7.0, business activity report.
So I'll give the business activity report. I apologize for not using my camera, but it's glitching on me right now. So this is just something we've been working on, say, within the last month, a couple projects. First, we have the Panel Gold Country Hearth, located at 18542 Ulysses Street in Northeast, and that's Prospect Commercial Park 4th Edition. So the site plan for the new 22,300 square foot building has been submitted. Planning Commission will review the site plan on May 25th, and it will go to council on June 14th. And then after the site plan approval, building plans will be submitted for review and hopefully building permit very soon. The next one, as you know, Aggressive Hydraulics, 1800 Ulysses Street Northeast. Building permit's been submitted for the 36,000 square foot addition to the building. Plans are under review. The permit is actually ready to be issued, but it will not be issued until after the TIF district is approved at the city council meeting on June 14th. We have a business, B&T Trucking, located at 1311 229th Avenue Northeast. An interim use permit was issued for this business to operate an over-the-road trucking company. They have been in business for about 20 years. They've been located at that site for 8 years, so within East Bethel. They didn't receive an interim use permit prior, so we brought it forward to get the IUP, as we call them, just so they're conforming on their site. A little bit about the business. It's common for them to have about 10 semi-trailers. I believe the interim use permit was approved for 15 trailers to be stored on site at any time. Typically, the trailers are loaded and they leave on the weekend. They're back in town on Wednesday and Thursday. Drivers take their couple days off and then the process starts all over again. So glad that they have their IUP now. And we will be seeing a small addition to that building as well. More so a garage they're going to put up just so they can do basic maintenance on the trailers there on site. Next one is Elevage First Edition, as you know, on 187th Lane and Highway 65. Council approved the development agreement and the master PUD concept plan development agreement. Site grading for this first phase will be completed by this fall. And we got word that Quick Trip will begin construction spring of 2022. And then also on May 3rd of this year, Planning Commission and City Council had a joint work meeting with Mr. Burstead, Corey Burstead, who's the developer of the project. He presented an updated concept plan for the residential component of it. The new residential plan consists of villa detached townhome styles, so no longer single family homes, and he had townhomes and possibly an apartment building prior. Again, he's coming back with the concept of all villa detached townhome styles. So staff's expected to receive that second edition plans no later than the end of June of this year. That's it at this point. So hopefully we'll see those plans coming forward soon.
So quick question as a follow-up from last month, and it's somewhat related, but the Service Road project, did we end up getting an environmental grant? I know we applied for something and I don't know if that ever came through.
Yeah, Julie? Yes, we haven't heard back from
Okay.
MPCA yet on that, on what they're gonna do with that soils correction. In the event that they do not fund that, the option was to use a geogrid fabric and not disturb or over excavate that area. That cost would be about an additional $11,000 to the project. So we're still waiting on MPCA for word on that funding.
Thank you. All right. If any other questions or comments, otherwise we can move on to item 8.0, City Council report.
I think the Stephanie's report covered many of the things we talked about over last month. One thing to add, not related to development, but related to getting our city back on track. Some of you probably heard the Booster Days is going to be back this year.
Yay.
It's going to be in a slightly different format. I think they're calling it night in the park or afternoon in the park, kind of. From my understanding, it's going to start later in the day and kind of go right into the fireworks. So we're not going to have a parade and things like that.
Okay.
I think, Brian, if you have any more to add, I think they're adding vendors and
They're looking for
food vendors. Yeah, so it'll happen. It'll be a little bit different style, but we will be able to celebrate our community this year. So, which is great.
That's great.
I think it was important to keep it alive, to at least have something this year and maybe next year have it return normal. We'll see if this evolves into the new normal, but we need something to have all of our residents come out and get together and celebrate, and so.
Yeah, and if there's anyone interested in helping out and being part of that committee, they can contact City Hall and they'll get you in touch with Stephanie and Dorn and others and get you on board to help the celebration get off the feet. So, Brian, if you have anything else to add I missed?
Maybe a little something. We council was sent out couple drone pictures of the new service road that's going in. They're pretty neat to see. I could almost see it. If we can hang on to those pictures, that in 100 years they can be historical pictures of how things came to be. But service road is definitely under construction, and we'll maybe have another ribbon cutting here, and once we get some blacktop laid.
I'll forward those photos to the EDA members and planning commission members. So.
Oh, that'd be great. It's fun to see that
that'd be great.
activity.
Thank you.
And did that RCI on Klondike get started? Yeah, it did.
It has been started. The contractor hasn't been doing much work up there lately. I'm sure they're utilizing their total allotted time on the project to maybe address other things. It's interesting to note the contractor for the RCI is also the contractor for the service road.
Interesting.
All right. I guess that should be all I have.
Okay, Mr. Bezanson, nice to have you join us. Hello. And with that, we're at the end of our agenda, so I will take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Jack, if you'll take roll.
EDA member Butler,
Aye.
EDA member Mundell,
Aye.
EDA member Landcrane,
Aye.
EDA member Voss,
Aye.
EDA member Bezanson. I think Brian said yes.
Mute.
EDA member Lux.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Good night,
Good to see everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Hopefully we can do this in person someday soon.
We will.
Have a safe Memorial Day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.
Maybe I'll get you that electronic signature stuff for the resolution.
Okay. I'll look for it. I'll get it right back to you.
Thank you.